All right. All right. So just as I turned my camera on a second ago, I saw a hiker come up from the other direction. So I turned it off and we passed by each other, and now I turned it back on. Anyway, so hope everyone is doing well. My name is Van Gogh, and this is my dog Riley. Today is Monday, May 27th. That means it's Memorial Day, the last Monday in May. And it is day 25 of our Appalachian Trail hike. Not calling it a thru hike because we haven't hiked the whole trail yet, but we're trying to hike the whole trail. And we're trying to do so in the northbound direction, at least for now. So Riley and I are still alive, so I'm very happy about that. I closed yesterday's video saying that we had gotten to the shelter called Jerry's Cabin Shelter, and that there was a I talked about forecast of a thunderstorm earlier in the day, and then by the end of the day, when I gave the last update, I had said that there was a big thunderstorm, but it had stopped momentarily or temporarily. So I was able to get outside of the shelter for a short bit. I actually went outside to pee, so I wouldn't have to worry about that as much overnight. And while I was out there, I just closed the video down, or closed the day down. But yeah, so when I got to the shelter, there were just two people, just one other person and myself, along with Riley. And I was lucky to get there because I thought actually there was a previous turnoff from the trail, maybe about a mile or a little over a mile, probably about a mile before the shelter. And I actually thought that turn was for the shelter. And I had made the decision to just go by it because the weather was still good at that point. And I was thinking that if it did start to rain, that I would just look for the next campsite perhaps, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Anyway, so it turns out I was incorrect, and the previous turn was just a random turn off the trail. It wasn't marked as being a shelter, and usually any trails that lead to a shelter are marked with a sign that indicates that it's a shelter. So, but I knew the shelter was coming up, and something made me think that turn was the turn that led to the shelter, and I decided to pass by it. And after we had passed by that turn, Riley was, both Riley and I were a little tired, and it was still hot outside. And Riley kind of stopped to take a break, and I decided to give him some food and some water. And we only took like maybe a 10-minute break, but by the end of it, I could see a shift in the skies, and the sky was turning dark, and I could see that the storm was coming in, and it was going to be coming in soon. So we got moving again, and then a short while later, we just walked up on Jerry's Cabin Shelter. It was right on the trail, and by that point, the skies were still dark. I was hearing thunder, and I was starting to get concerned that the storm was going to be a big one. And so when we got to the shelter, I was thankful to see it, and it was an easy decision for me to say, yes, we're going to stop here and just spend the night here. And so I had a good chat with the lady that was there initially, and then a third guy, and then it started raining, and it started raining really hard. And I was like, yeah, I'm really, really glad to be in the shelter right now, and where Riley and I are staying dry. All right, Riley and I need water, and this is our chosen water source here. Beautiful waterfall there. We're just gonna go over to the other side here. Come on, buddy. All right, and I'm gonna fill up on water here. My battery died when I was last talking about our experience last night, and then it took me a while to replace my battery. So it's towards the end of the day now, and I'm gonna fill up on water, and then I'll check back in and provide more of an update on what I was talking about, and then the rest of our day. Bye for now. So I filled up on water, and this is Riley waiting for me to get back to the pack. Whenever I leave to go fill up on water, I attach Riley's leash to, I just keep Riley's leash I keep Riley's leash attached to the strap of my pack so that he's secure, safe and sound. All right, we're gonna get back on trail and we'll check in a bit. All right, Riley and I are back on trail after filling up on water here. And to pick up where I left off, just from talking about last night, so I got to the shelter. It was Jerry's cabin shelter. Just me and one other lady named Lycan. And it started raining pretty heavily, and another guy showed up who had gotten caught in the rain. He was soaked. So when he got to the shelter, he was very happy to get there. Riley, trail goes this way, buddy. Other way. Here we go. Good boy. Yeah, so another guy showed up. And he actually mentioned that there might be a few other hikers coming, because he had seen a few other hikers earlier in the day. And sure enough, maybe 20 minutes later, somewhere around there, 3 other hikers showed up. And the 3 other hikers actually were all people that I had met in Hot Springs. One of the guys also stayed at the Laughing Heart, so I had met him there. And the other 2 hikers, a guy and a girl who are hiking together, I actually met them on the porch of the Smoky Mountain Diner, just as Riley and I showed up a little after 10:30 for our breakfast. The other 2 hikers were finishing their breakfast. Come on, Riley, follow me, buddy. Anyway, so when the other 3 hikers got there, they were also soaked, and they were extremely thankful to have gotten to the shelter. They were still up on the exposed ridge trail. Come on, Riley. Just as the storm started to start, and they said they were literally, like, one of the guys said he was literally running down the trail as fast as he could to try to get to the shelter so he could get out of the rain. And all of them were like, that was like the worst rain that I've ever been in. Come on, buddy. Hey, okay. So the rain was very heavy. It started around 5 o'clock or maybe a little after. And I think it continued pretty hard until about 7 o'clock, and then it let up. And then actually it stayed relatively quiet for most of the night, but then it picked up again around 4, I think. That's what I heard other people say. And then it continued and into the daylight until, I'm guessing, about 8 a.m. So there were two prolonged stretches of heavy rain. Not sure why Riley stops sometimes. I guess he's telling me he's ready for us to find a campsite, which we're close to doing. Anyway, so we had a full house at the shelter last night. Oh, and then also 2 other guys showed up after the other 3 hikers, but the shelter is designed for only 6 people, that particular shelter, so it was already at capacity. So the other 2 hikers, when they showed up, they stayed under the shelter for a little while to collect themselves and dry off, and then they found a good time where they could get their tent out and set it up in front of the shelter. So it was a good time last night. Everyone was really thankful to be in the shelter and out of the rain. Those are some of the best times on trail, when you're exposed to a dangerous situation and you find a way out of it, such as by getting to a shelter. And anyway, so last night I'd heard that the rain was possibly going to continue all day today. So when the rain was continuing this morning, I was thinking, like, I was still lying on my pad with Riley, and I was kind of chilly, and I was thinking we might just take a 0 if it was going to continue to rain the whole day. But after the rain stopped at 8 a.m., it didn't really pick up at all. And some other people in the shelter had access to weather reports, so they were able to confirm that there was a fairly low chance of rain today. And then other hikers showed up this morning while we were still in the shelter, and the sun eventually came out, and people in the shelter started getting ready to hike. And for myself, when a big rainstorm such as the one last night happens, I feel like I turn from my adult self into a little boy who's just very scared of the rain. And I was in no hurry to get out of the shelter this morning. I basically kind of stayed comfortable in my sleeping bag with Riley lying close to me while other people got ready. And then only once I realized that other people were like definitely heading out did I feel comfortable kind of getting ready myself to head out. I just didn't feel comfortable being the first one in the shelter on the trail certainly without getting some sort of update on what the weather was going to be like today. So once I got the update that there was a low chance of rain, Riley, what are you doing? The trail continues this way. Come on, buddy. And also, once we saw the sun come out, that was certainly encouraging for me. And today has turned into a very nice day. It started off kind of chilly, and the sun came out, but the clouds kind of moved in and out periodically in the early part of the day. And it took me a while to kind of get comfortable on the trail. It usually takes me a while to get comfortable. I'm usually moving pretty slowly in the mornings, and then I get more comfortable as the day goes on. Right now we're going uphill, so I'm moving slowly. But I'm definitely glad that it didn't rain further today, and Riley and I have been able to continue to stay dry. And so far today, I would estimate we've done close to 11 miles on the day. And I don't know what time it is, but definitely getting close to evening time. So we're going to be finding a campsite soon. The next town that we get to is Irwin, which is about a little over 30 miles from here. So if we can get off to an early start tomorrow and also Wednesday, then there's a chance that we could get there by the end of the day on Wednesday, which is my goal for the time being, to try to get there, get to Irwin on Wednesday evening, ideally in time for their dinner shuttle, which takes us to, I believe, if they haven't changed it, takes us to either a Mexican place. Well, I mean, it takes us to a place where you have the option of going to either a Mexican restaurant or an Italian restaurant. And then it's close to a Walmart where you can do a resupply. So that would certainly be nice if we could get there in time for that. Another thing that's on my mind is before we get too far from the time that we were in Hot Springs, I realized that I didn't provide an actual review of the food that I got at Smoky Mountain Diner. I showed it on camera when they served it, and I'm sure it looked good. I think it looked good. But I want to give a little post-mortem review on how the food was. So starting with the skillet breakfast, which was served in a cast iron skillet, and it was basically home fries and 2 eggs and mushrooms and peppers and onions, and I'm sure they put a generous amount of cheese in there, and served alongside a buttermilk biscuit. So my impressions of the skillet breakfast, I was actually, when they served it initially, I was thinking that it was smaller than I was expecting. I had heard that it was like a ginormous plate, and it was a large plate, but it wasn't quite as big as I had built up in my mind. But nevertheless, because I had eaten quite a good amount of food at the hostel the previous night during my all-night sleepover outside the kitchen area, trying to get my YouTube videos uploaded. Yeah, so because I had eaten so much there, I didn't have my full hiker hunger, so I wasn't starving, but I still had a good appetite, and I was ready to enjoy the breakfast. So I would say, because I wasn't as hungry as I have been at other points on the trail, the breakfast portion that they did serve was absolutely plenty to satisfy me. And by the time I was finishing it, I was definitely getting full. And I did not rush eating the meal at all. I tried to savor it and enjoy it. And I didn't have trouble finishing it, but I was definitely getting full. So while it wasn't as big as I was expecting, I wasn't disappointed in the size. It was a good size. and definitely sufficient to satisfy my appetite. But as far as the quality of the food, I'll start with the biscuit. So the buttermilk biscuit, I don't usually have buttermilk biscuits. The only other times that I've had buttermilk biscuits are when I've gone to Popeyes in the past, which I don't go frequently at all anymore. But I do remember Popeyes had buttermilk biscuits. And so the flavor was reminiscent of a Popeyes buttermilk biscuit. But I could definitely appreciate that this buttermilk biscuit tasted very good. Tasted like it was made with quality ingredients. It was dry and crispy on the outside, and on the inside it was flaky and moist and certainly warm. And they served the biscuit with a side of what I could tell was homemade quality butter, not just a regular piece of butter that you buy at the grocery store. So it was nice and fluffy. And they also served it with a side of apple butter. And it was more butter and apple butter than you needed for the biscuit. But I made a point to put all of the butter inside the biscuit as well as all of the apple butter. And that was it was just a very good biscuit. I enjoyed it very much. And for the overall skillet breakfast, I added some ketchup to it, and I also added some hot sauce, a couple packets of hot sauce. And I was very much in the mood for something hearty and filling in terms of like potatoes and eggs and cheese. So the breakfast totally hit the spot. I kind of wish my appetite had been bigger so that I would have had room to maybe even order a second breakfast. But I wouldn't have had room for a second breakfast. I did have room, however, for the single pancake that they offered for $1.99. And I barely had room for that. I slowed down considerably when I was working on the pancake. And the pancake was excellent. It was also similar to the biscuit. It was lightly crispy on the outside. So they fried it very nice. But then on the inside it was light and fluffy. And they offered 2 fruit toppings, either blueberry compote or cinnamon apple, and I chose the cinnamon apple. Hello. Okay, so we just ran into another hiker coming the other way, so I turned my camera off quickly so as not to disturb him. But as I was saying with the pancake, I thoroughly enjoyed the pancake. Very nice texture, and I enjoyed I thought the cinnamon apple fruit topping complemented it very well, along with the whipped cream that they added. It was a very nice touch of sweetness to finish out the hearty and fulfilling skillet breakfast that I had to start with. Yeah, so overall, I was very pleased with the breakfast, and I certainly expect to go back there at some time in the future, and I will, when I go back there in the future, I will have a goal of having an even bigger appetite so that I can order a skillet breakfast and also have room for another breakfast. Another breakfast that I thought of ordering was I could do 2 skillet breakfasts. That would be cool. But if I were to do one of two different ones. I'm thinking I would do maybe the Western omelet, which they also had on the menu. That's a vegetarian omelet that includes like black beans and sour cream, along with a side of your choice of like home fries or fried apples or hash browns. So, I mean, more of the same stuff that they provide in the skillet breakfast. But given that I get to Hot Springs so infrequently, I feel like it would be nice the next time I go there to try to have such a big appetite so that I can enjoy more than just a single breakfast. And then I would also try to add at least a single pancake on top of that. So, okay, so that's my review of the breakfast. I apologize for belaboring the food topic for so long if people are not interested, but those are the things that really excite me when I'm on the trail. Okay, so Riley and I are doing fine tonight, and we'll check in when we get to a campsite later on. Bye for now. Nice little clearing here, giving us a view to our left. Oh, whoops. Go ahead, Ray. Good boy. All right. All right, so Riley and I get caught in a little rainstorm. Gosh, just having trouble keeping my footing here, but Riley and I got caught in a little rainstorm just a short while ago, so got Riley's rain jacket on, and I put my jacket on that I fortuitously found in the shelter last night. Someone had left it there, so I am lucky to have picked it up, and the rain has fortunately stopped, actually, and this looks like a campsite here. So we're gonna take it. This is a nice campsite. Little fire pit there, and there's a place right there to set up the tent. I realize there's very little light here, so nothing shows up well on camera. But we are the rain actually felt good. Cooled us off, and I actually haven't had a shower in a while. I wasn't able to get a shower at the Laughing Heart in Hot Springs. I could have gotten a shower, but I just didn't make it a priority, and so the rain felt good on my head. It washed my head off, felt very refreshing, and I'm just glad that it's over now, so we can set up our tent while it's dry and get inside. All right, so I'll do one more check-in to close out the day in a little bit. All right, so just want to close out the day here. Riley and I got our tent set up, or I got our tent set up, and Riley watched. And fortunately, the rain held off, so I was able to get it set up without any extra wetness occurring. So I checked far out, and it looks like we are basically at like the highest elevation point. There's this map here in my AWOL guide that shows the elevation profile. Yeah, so we are basically right up here. There's a place called Lick Rock, and anyway, it's not that big a deal, but we did about 12.5 miles today. Got a late start because of the rain from last night, and I was in no hurry to get out on the trail this morning until I felt comfortable that we weren't going to get rained on throughout the day. And it turns out that we did get rained on at the end of the day, but fortunately it didn't last too long, and it actually felt kind of good. And fortunately also I picked up the jacket from the shelter last night. In retrospect, sending my rain jacket home in Hot Springs was, I knew at the time it was kind of a reckless, crazy decision, but I was motivated by saving weight and also just the caveman instinct of it was really hot in Hot Springs, and that made me underestimate the risk of rain occurring and causing me to be cold in the future. But then the rain that occurred yesterday, combined with the availability of the jacket that was in the shelter, made me reconsider and decide to take the jacket. And so it's already proving helpful tonight with the rain. And then, yeah, so 12.5 miles today. One last thought that I wanted to share, just going back to the meal in Hot Springs. Some of you may be wondering, what did Riley get to eat? Like Scott or Van Gogh, you got to eat this wonderful breakfast at Smoky Mountain Diner. What about Riley? So, I did not get anything for Riley at Smoky Mountain Diner. Other than I did ask the waitress if she could bring a bowl of water, and she did bring Riley some water. But he wasn't thirsty. He was just content sleeping on the porch outside. But he did get a good meal the night before. So while we were inside at the hiker kitchen in the common area in the Laughing Heart Hostel, I had made myself a dinner, just using some of the materials in the hiker kitchen. So they had plenty of white rice, and they had several cans of tomato and vegetable soup, and they had a bag of lentils, and I made myself some rice and lentils and cooked it on the cook set or the stovetop that they had, and added some tomato soup. And so I made myself a good dinner. And then later on, I also made Riley a dish. Well, so I started with his dry dog food, and then I added to it some cooked white rice and lentils, a good portion of it. And he likes rice and he likes beans. And they also had in the hiker kitchen a can of pumpkin puree, or just pumpkin that was mashed up and ready to eat. And Riley loves pumpkin, so basically I gave him his regular dog food with a large portion of rice and lentils and pumpkin. Riley, thank you for reorganizing my book here. That's okay. Do what you need to do. Yes. So Riley got a good dinner the night before. And he didn't need like a big breakfast from the restaurant. Because the meal that I gave him was, since I was up all night, it was kind of in the middle of the night, and so he was still digesting it. And later on in the day, his bowel movements were extra orange because of all the pumpkin that he ate. So he did get a good meal as well. It wasn't just me, so I just wanted to clarify that. Riley and I are thankful to be in our tent tonight, in case it does rain, and we're looking forward to getting a good night's sleep. So with that, Riley and I will say good night. I hope everyone that's watching this is doing well and we will check in tomorrow. Bye for now.